Welcome back. My name is Corinne Phillips, and this is Fresh Pea Cooks. Today I've got a special guest, Heidi from mindfulme.org. And Heidi is a mindfulness educator, and I'm very delighted to have her here. She's come from Bismarck and is visiting the gorge, and we met recently, and I truly felt like I met another part of myself. So I'm very delighted to share her with you guys. Today's Friday, it's Philosophy Friday, where we get together and we talk about things that matter. So today we're going to talk about how food affects mood. Now, it is back to school time for many of you parents. This is going to be, you work in schools, so we're going to aim the talk at talking about kids, but it's just as relevant for us without children and adults.
Big kids.
So when I started this, I suggested this video to Heidi. She was very excited to do it with us, and she suggested how food affects mood. I love that. I love it so much because it's been so vital and such a vital part of my path. So what does that mean to you as an educator in the schools?
So I work primarily with kids and families, and in thinking about mindfulness and how we can work to educate kids to be more present, food is definitely a foundation of all of that. And you think of back to school as being a more stressful time. There's a big adjustment. It's a big transition. You know, we're going from kind of our summer brains back to our school brains. And so thinking of food as foundational, how can we really set our kids up for success? And I think it's an essential back to school kind of need is healthy food. When we think about stress and these transitions back to school, we naturally gravitate towards sugary foods or things that are going to kind of fill
Make
that.
us feel good.
Yeah, the temporary, but thinking about more sustained energy really brings us back into that food as a foundation for healthy brain function and mood.
And traditionally, for all of us, cravings often dictate what we end up eating. And so a lot of people, and I've said this so many times on the channel, palate is learned. And so our bodies physiologically are wired to fat, salt, and sugar. And manufacturers know that. So they create these products that, like Doritos, delicious. There's fat, there's sugar, and there's salt.
Yeah.
But they're not actually what's nourishing us. And now you said something the other day at John's house that she was talking to her kids, and Heidi mentioned, like, are you eating for comfort, or are you eating for nourishment?
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me, because I think many of us eat for comfort, or we eat because something tastes good, or we're motivated by that cupcake or that slice of banana bread.
Right.
But the adverse effect on our daily function is pretty severe. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that because they've not ever felt well.
Right. And I don't think you know how good you can feel until you feel that good. And so when we're eating to nourish, you know, it's the difference between eating something quick because we're bored, or gravitating towards sugar because we're stressed, or actually being mindful about what we're putting into our bodies. And as I was sharing with you, you know, I'm in this 200-hour yoga training right now, and I went and had pizza for lunch the other day. You know, not a lot, but I had pizza and it was delicious and it was amazing. But I also felt this slump, and you know, it's how my body responds to carbs. And it's not that I don't eat carbs at all, but I just notice. And so really that's what mindful eating is asking us to do, is to pay attention to how we feel after eating something, not just as we're eating it or 15 minutes after, but how do you feel throughout the day? I feel much different if I have, you know, a salad with some protein in it, or, you know, a boiled egg or something, than I would if I had the pizza. So really it's about noticing and paying attention to our bodies and how we're actually feeling. And mindful eating is a way to do that, a way that we can kind of tune in and tap into, you know, how we feel after we eat something.
I know from personal experience, if I cut out sugar, things taste really sweet after a week or so. Like if I use whole milk in my tea, it tastes sweet. Where it normally doesn't taste sweet. If I'm eating sugar, my sweet threshold is reduced significantly. But I also notice that if I do eat sugar again after a period of not eating it, like I get mean. Like, I get like grouchy and irritable and short.
Yeah.
And sometimes it surprises me that I react and I'm like, oh, I just ate this thing that my body is not used to eating.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, I think there's a reason why parents serve cake last at birthday parties when there's a bunch of kids there, because they're like, out of my house now that you're like bouncing off the walls, or
Right.
it's definitely there's a connection there. And so in thinking about sending our kids off to school and the whole back to school thing, it's sending things along with them that will keep them sustained throughout the day. So maybe instead of fruit snacks, you're actually going to send some fruit along, or cashews, walnuts, all these brain boosting foods that can actually keep kids feeling full longer, but definitely has an effect on our body and our ability to concentrate and our mood too.
Now, what about the parents that are like, okay, that sounds good in theory, but my kid's not eating celery?
Yeah, and I encountered this with my own kids, and so getting them involved in the process, even before packing snacks or cooking meals in the kitchen. We're sitting out in Corinne's beautiful garden right now, and I think about my own kids, how I would have them get involved in helping with the raised beds, or growing some herbs, or just planting seeds. What that does is it builds a connection between them and the food. So instead of just saying dinner's ready and they sit down to a new item on the plate, like some leafy greens, they've actually helped grow that. And if a garden isn't something that you can do, even just a window box of herbs, or helping them prep vegetables. I taught both my kids from a fairly young age how to chop vegetables safely. Or even just cutting up strawberries for an after-school snack and having that available in the fridge. I think you can always find ways to incorporate your children into cooking and to make it fun. And that's what I remember with my mom. Being in the kitchen baking with her, that was a shared experience, and something that we did together, and it really helped spark an interest in me to cook. And it's really truly a lifelong skill that we're offering our kids, is to be able to nourish their bodies and to cook for themselves, once they're out of the nest and on their own in the world.
And you have a brilliant practice that you do, and my girlfriend Mindy does this with her kids, and I've actually been instrumental in menu planning with them. It's called Chef of the Week. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I love this, and I've seen it now unfold in 2 families and 2 households, and it's just remarkable how the kids respond to it.
Yeah, so it started off as a class that I was teaching, and we made chef hats for the kids, and they got to play with their food because that's instrumental. Kids learn through play. So I actually let them get in there and play with their food, and I thought, I should be doing this at home with my own kids. And so Chef of the Week is where we take a few days out of a week, and they get to be chef, and they get to determine what it is that we're going to eat, and they get to help prep for that. So we go to the store or the market, and they get to help buy the ingredients and then help make that. And there's such a feeling of pride, when they're done, like, look what I did. It's almost like the art projects that they bring home from school, and I made this for you. It's a work of art. And so really getting them involved in that, I think, can be really powerful, instead of just yelling, dinner's ready, and it's just there. And I know time and convenience matters, I understand that, but it can be something simple. So my son Nash loves macaroni and cheese, and there's a really fun way that you can make that homemade, and he's part of it, and melting the cheese and stirring it, and he can add his own, seasonings if he wants. So it's a fun way to integrate kids into the kitchen at a young age and really make them feel proud of their achievement. So I remember being a child and having my teacher say, pay attention. And I'd be looking out the window at a bird or something, and I was like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? Where should my eyes be looking? So teaching attention, it really is a skill, like riding a bike. It has to be taught and practiced and then mastered. And so when we talk about attention, whether it's with eating or paying attention in school, what we do is we bring awareness to the body. And so one way that we do that could be through mindful eating. And so a really fun, playful thing that I often do with kids is, I'll blindfold them, and we take away that whole layer of sensory experience of sight, because we're kind of bombarded with images and sensory experiences all day. And what that does is it kind of heightens our other senses, for example, the sense of taste. And so what I'll do, whether it's with, a handful of blueberries, I'll have the kids just put a few on their hand and they're not quite sure what it is, but I'll ask them to kind of feel, what do you think is on your hand? Is it warm? Is it cold? And they're all curious, and then we move to smelling it. So then we're using our sense of smell, and so they smell to see if they can figure out what's in their hand. And then next we put it on our tongue. We don't chew, but we just feel what that feels like on our palate. And then they usually get the sense of what it is. So then we can eat it and enjoy it. But it's a way to really help bring awareness to what it is we're eating. That's just one example. Slowing down, meal times at our house, it's distraction free. So it's a chance to build connection. We go usually 8 hours in school or 8 hours at our jobs, not seeing our kids or our partners, and so mealtime can be a really, really special time to just slow down and enjoy something tasty together. And so we remove distractions. iPhones are off, TV's off, and we sit and we savor, and it's really just a time to be present with one another, but also with the food that we've prepared.
We were just talking earlier off camera, like the only thing I ever remember buying as a kid was candy. And I was such a little deviant that I would go to the store and I would buy a giant bag of like the cheapest, most sugar I could get for however much money I had. And I would hide it in the rhododendron bush outside my bedroom window. And I'd go in with like 2 or 3 pieces because my mom would have like freaked out. That was not allowed in our house.
Right.
But it was literally like crack. I was so addicted to it.
You hit it on the head. It's a rush, but it's also temporary. So in thinking about sustained attention and sustained energy, those are quick fixes, but they're not going to last. They're not going to fuel and nourish our bodies. So my kids kind of do the same thing. It's like taking the money that, the allowance money and going to buy the fun stuff that I don't really bring into the house. So everything in moderation, right? But I think ways that we can help our kids is, having some things prepped, whether they help with that ahead of time or not, but just making it accessible, making those healthy foods accessible and easy, kind of the go-to after school stuff. So, we'll prep some strawberries and just have it there, so if they're hungry, they're going to grab that instead of, something else. Or, just simple things, like I've taught them how to make, basic wraps and sandwiches and, a yogurt parfait. So, getting, the whole fat yogurt and throwing some strawberries on top and a little granola. I mean, that can be a really protein-rich, super tasty after-school snack. So just, modeling. And that's the biggest thing with all of this mindfulness work that I do to teach kids and educators and families is embodiment. So if your kids seeing you drinking, a Diet Coke, they're going to want a Diet Coke or whatever. I mean, whatever it is, just being a good model for your kids.
And that's true for me in my life too. If I have the yummy treat in the house, and now my problem is if you bake it, eat it. Or if you want it, bake it. Like don't buy a Twinkie, make a beautiful layer cake, because then, like your kids, you're invested in it. But then I also know, like, if it's in the house, I'm going to eat it.
Cake for breakfast?
I know,
why
not? So delicious. And so those are practices I abide by too. I know there are things that my husband loves, like tortilla chips. I just try not to eat them because it's the slippery slope for salt and fat for me.
Certainly.
If I eat one, I'm like,
that addictive quality. Yeah, and everything in moderation. I think those treats are okay, but it's when we have those treats every day that they stop becoming a treat. And so really just kind of reframing how we approach food.
And having almond butter and some really nice flaky salt and celery, I'm like, not quite like a tortilla chip, but still really good.
And it's what you're going for, that crunch. You get the crunch factor.
Right, a little salt.
Yeah.
Fat, but healthy fat.
Right.
mindfulme.org is a resource. It's a blog that you've put together for parents and resources for families. And do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. So my work actually started out in the schools as an occupational therapist, and in working with kids, I realized that they really needed access to more coping skills, some of these basic foundational skills that would help them throughout life. And so I work a lot with growth mindset and introducing mindfulness to kids and families to really help them move through big feelings in a skillful way. So oftentimes what they're seeing in schools is a rise in behaviors, and you may have a school, you know, with 600 kids and maybe 1 or 2 counselors, and I really just saw the need there. And so in my work, it's really teaching emotional resiliency and offering these skills to kids and families to help them move through some of these big feelings. And what I've found with the work is it's really lending itself to creating more cooperative spaces, whether we see it in the classroom or in homes. It's really about working together and you know, we talk about such foundational things like gratitude and empathy and compassion, things that we think people just have, but it's challenging, you know. And what I'm finding in some of this work, when I introduce mindfulness meditation to kids and teachers and families, is what we don't have for ourselves, we can't offer to others. So if we don't have self-compassion, it makes it really challenging to see another's viewpoint. And so it's really about cooperation and compassion and learning how we feel so that we can move skillfully through that. And there's a number of tools that I've used from occupational therapy and what I've learned from my mindful schools training that I bring into the schools, and it's really fascinating to see some of the changes in the kids that I've worked with.
And you're developing curricula as well.
Yeah, in the process of, and introducing that to teachers, because, it goes back to embodiment. So really teaching teachers about mindfulness first, and then offering up curriculum that can be used in the schools to introduce it to the classroom. And I know there was a bit of a barrier at first. Some of the teachers I was talking with, they just thought, oh, it's just one more thing to do in the school day. They're already overwhelmed. But this is 5 to 10 minutes each morning. And if we think of it as a way to kind of level the playing field, kids are coming from all different various backgrounds, but they're expected to meet the same standards and expectations. And so what mindfulness does, and doing a simple mindfulness practice in the morning as a classroom, really lays a solid foundation for the day, because when we are able to really understand what we're feeling, and when we're calm, we can learn, we can focus. And so it's just really a way to build skills in kids from a young age that they can take with them throughout life.
I don't know that there's many things that are more important than that.
Yeah, truly.
Truly. A girlfriend of mine is a professor here at the community college, and their programs, once the aluminum plant shut down, there's a lot of back to work programs where the college has become an instrumental player in adults returning for career training. And she teaches writing, and every class that she has, for the first 10 minutes of class, they do a meditation, and that she thinks that is more integral to the creative aspect of allowing people to write fluidly and get out of their head. It reframes the experience for these students, and I think that's brilliant. So
Absolutely.
I'm seeing more teachers, more educators really embody this connection between being present and being conscious, being mindful, and how we perform. And I know I mentioned to you earlier, my thesis was on the effects of green space in children's learning outcomes. So that was a really interesting field of mine, and an interesting area early on. And when I saw children that couldn't identify a cauliflower at the beginning of the season nurture these mustard greens, something that is completely blows out the palate of most children, and pick a leaf off and eat it and be so surprised by the spice and the pungency and how strong flavored this leaf was, and enjoy it and eat another one. And that was an integral part of it was kind of an aha moment for me.
Yes.
Watching these children, instead of saying, eat this mustard green, it's good for you, and them having an absolute reaction to
Adverse reaction, of course.
To being curious about it. And I think fostering curiosity is so integral to mindfulness, because when I practice meditation, it's not that I'm trying not to think. which a lot of people associate meditation.
Yes.
But I have a practice of experiencing everything I possibly can. Like, what is my body feeling? What does the carpet feel like on my feet? What does the air feel like? What is the ambient temperature in the room? Where you're just trying to notice as much as possible.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you're not up here
Right.
replaying stories.
Right. And it's this mind-body connection, and we're given these bodies and we have them for our whole lives, and so taking good care, whether it's food as foundation or a mindfulness practice where we're, you know, actually taking care of our thoughts and emotions and being good to ourselves, I think it's something that, you know, we can take with us for our whole lives, and it's such a gift that we can give to our kids and to ourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're a gift to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
For those of you that want more mindfulness tips, go to mindfulme.org and check out Heidi's work there. She's also just begun a YouTube channel, so for those of you that want to go give her a little love, I'll put the links below for how to contact her. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Oh.
Welcome back. My name is Corinne Phillips, and this is Fresh Pea Cooks. I don't want to do that intro. Today, I've got a special guest, Heidi from Mindful. Oh God,
I always think mindful you, mindfulme.org.
That's perfect.
Let's just make a video of laughing and bloopers.
I know. I actually did that. I made like a 5-hour video with my brother, and there were so many funny parts. I just cut out the whole video
And made a
just
collage.
did the funny
So
parts.
cool.
Okay. Welcome back.